morning, everyone. Welcome to our regular Knowledge Empowers You podcast. As always, with you is me, Kat. 안녕하세요. Then we have Baruch.
Hello, hello, hello.
And we have Kolaj.
Dobré ráno, good morning, everyone.
Oh, the level of energy just went by one bit up compared to last week. Woohoo! Guys, just recently, I was giving a session to high schoolers about financial independence. AKA, for those who are listening, you can listen our podcast about financial independence. It was one of our successful podcasts. Link will be provided later. But that's not what I want to talk, even though, imagine the topic, financial independence. And I had an experience where high schooler, because you can see like I have the pride here and all over, and he asked a question through an application, whether I'm a supporter of an LGBTI. So I said, it has nothing to do with the topic, but yes, of course I am. I'm an ally, and I explained what I do. And then he wrote, I don't support LGBTI, and because you do, I don't want to have anything to do with you or not even listen to you or blah, blah, blah. And it was very interesting. Well, first of all, because we had, let's say, the power over the chat, so we did not release that sentence from this high schooler to the rest of the group, mainly because the topic had nothing to do with the topic we were discussing about. But it was some sort of harassment, so bullying, I can say, if I can say the word bullying. But it was also very interesting. And so, what do you guys know about bullying? And did you ever have had your own experience?
For me, I got some discrimination, so I don't know if this would fall under bullying, but probably that would be something different, right? I don't know. Kat, do you know?
Okay, so I did ask the beautiful Wikipedia, what is bullying? So let me read out really what Wikipedia is saying. So bullying is divided into 4 basic types of abuse. Psychological, brackets, sometimes called emotional or rational, end of brackets, verbal, physical, and cyber.
Okay.
And behaviors used to assert such a domination may include physical assault or coercion, verbal harassment or threat, and such acts may be directed repeatedly towards particular targets. Rationalizations of such behavior sometimes include difference of social class, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, appearance, behavior, body language, personality, reputation, lineage, strength, size, or ability. If bullying is done by a group, it is called mobbing.
I noticed we had some cases of bullying and mobbing in high school. But not towards me, fortunately. So, according to that definition.
So, as I read it out of the Wikipedia, by the way, guys, please, if you can, donate $5 to Wikipedia. we need those super information. This is absolutely not paid advertisement. It's just many people do use Wikipedia for their own research, and it's really tons of excellent information there. By which I wanted to say that by reading this of what it means, and even though you witness it, but did you had maybe in a workplace a sort of bullying, cyberbullying?
Well, depends where poking fun ends and bullying starts. So maybe depends on the perception of the target of the joke or bullying, right?
I actually witnessed cyberbullying at workplace via chat. So we had a female performer and a male performer who sort of, it was like a sexual harassment via the chat on the girl. And when we forced, or I don't want to say forced, but faced physically the person, like, why are you writing this to her, etc., the person was like, I'm not doing anything bad, I'm just asking, I want to ask her for date or for dinner, etc. And obviously she was very uncomfortable by it, that it needed to be done in such an extent that we had to take her away from his project, that she would not even need to do one simple text via the chat at all, because he simply was not willing to stop at all.
Do you think he was aware what impact it has, his actions?
It was told to him, like, even what it does to her emotionally. But
did he admit it? Did he describe what he's doing?
Like, if when you face him face to face and you said the actions you're doing via the chat have this type of implication, like a sexual harassment, he said it's not true. All I want to do is like ask her for a dinner because I think we get along very well. So it was like something else in his mind compared the real world.
So in his mind, he was being nice and...
Yes.
Okay. And he admired her, basically.
He admired her. He wanted to literally like date with her. So that was something I've witnessed on cyberbullying at work.
How about when you see other professionals scream at other one? I think we've been witness to that as well.
Oh, I had that one as well.
Yeah, I know.
So that's verbal. And that's verbal, right? So it happened. So let's just, for the audience, to describe the situation. So it happened that my direct team member was sitting at his workplace. Imagine huge open space, right? And peripherally, I just saw a guy who literally like pushed himself away from a table, started swearing, stood up, came to my guy, stood over him, and just screamed at him. But that employee did not report to me. So in the meantime, as I was looking and observing the situation, it was so absurd situation. I wrote to the manager of that person and asked him, like, explain what's happening, and ask him, can I deal with it? Will you be okay? And the manager gave me okay. And so that's when I stood up. So everyone just went quiet. What's happening? What's happening? And I just showed the fingers to the guy who was screaming at my guy. You there. And I showed at the quiet room. And then I point finger on my team member and I say, you stay here.
Can you describe more what was the conflict there?
My team member, we used to call him walking Wikipedia. This guy was like super smart and he remembered things going like backwards. Fair enough, he did have one flaw, and that was not correctly expressing himself. But the people who work with him for a long time really admired his smartness, and later we just learned how to talk to him. He wasn't a bad person, he just didn't know how to express it, let's say. And this new guy didn't like what he wrote him, didn't like the approach, and it just like literally pissed him off and he just went nuts over it. And so when I sit with him in a quiet room, I didn't even start any conversation yet. I saw that his eyes are glistening and I didn't even start yet anything. And he was the one screaming at my own team member. And then I was like, okay, let's breathe in. And with a very calm voice, I just explained him, look, this is a workspace. At work, we don't shout, we don't scream, and we do not use verbal abuses. And then I asked him, okay, can you please explain me what's the problem? What made you upset? And then he explained me that the way my team member wrote him about some amplifications, what's wrong, blah, blah, blah. It just makes him angry. And I said, okay, fair enough. In that case, let me teach you the proper process. And I explained him that if he's not okay with the proper solution or even the communication, that he can either speak to his manager or can speak to me or can speak directly to my team member that he doesn't like it, etc. We keep talking about this communication approach on other of our podcasts, so just listen to that. And then I ask him, okay, can you please write it down? And then also your proposed solution, what would you prefer? And send it to me. And I'll make sure I will sit with my team member to work on his skills. Interestingly enough, everyone in the open space thought that I was screaming at that boy inside of the room.
Which would be bullying again.
But I don't know why they thought, because I really did not raise my voice at all.
I think many people think like if you are angry and if you scream at other people, you are the perpetrator and there is nothing that can hurt you. But I think it's the other way around. Like many times those that bully have some kind of issue or are in like a tense situation. I think that's why you saw him like almost crying in that meeting room.
Let me ask you guys this, and I know it's going to sound so weird.
Guys, have you ever noticed sometimes managers do this? Like they start to, it doesn't necessarily need to be screaming, but kind of like putting down their employees.
Oh, you mean something like a power abuse? It's so-called the God syndrome.
Oh,
that comes with the position.
Well, in my case, it looked like the manager was criticizing openly others people work in front of everyone else in the team. And I think it's not bad to give feedback to employees, but it really depends on how you do it. She didn't really swear. But she was putting down people, saying like, this is awful. How can you even share something like this with other people? And she wasn't really subject matter expert on those, on that work that they were presenting. So I don't know where that came from, where she got that confidence to do this even. So I think, is that bullying? Would you say this is bullying?
Okay, I'm not an expert to say this is bullying. I can only say, as a former manager, that that's a misuse of your own position. And with all the training as a leader, as a manager you get, that's exactly what they teach you to never ever do. That's lesson number one. And we did, even in our podcast, discuss the giving and receiving feedback. And if it's supposed to be constructive, it's always one-on-one and never in front of people, because you want to help your people to grow. Last but not least, you as a leader losing the trust of your own team members towards you, and they'll be very careful what they will say to you or do. And that's when the performance start also going down, because most of the employees will just do what is requested or required, but nothing more.
So in this case, Kat, since you were a manager, you probably know what should employee do?
I wanted to cover the solutions actually at the end of all our own experiences with bullying, or sort of bullying, whatever we experience with or got through. Really depends on organization and or corporation. Each corporation has a different steps that you could approach. So, and also depends on the issue, the bullying itself. So you can either ask your mentor for help, like this is the situation, and the mentor can teach you and share with you some potential solution, how you can deal with it right there, right here, let's say directly with the person who's bullying you. Another possibility is you sort of escalate it. That means you go to your own manager. And in case manager is the one doing this to you, it's called a skip level escalation. So you go to his, her manager. Another possibility is many corporations have so-called ethic committee, and you can put it's like a ticketing system, and you can put everything there. Another possibility is you reach out to HR. And let's say last possibility is, or two last possibilities are, you change a job within the company, and the super last one is you leave the company. Depends on where you're able to learn to deal with such a difficult situations, because those situations will repeat within your life, and not always. It is not always good to run away from those situations, because then you will never be able to learn how to solve or deal with such situations.
Kat, what would you do if you notice that someone is being bullied but is doing nothing about it, like your colleague or a teammate?
In every psychology book or even psychology training, until the person wants help, wants that change, you are not able to help. So the very first thing I would actually do is speak to the person. I would literally tell the person, these are my observations. I'm not sure if even my observations are correct, but do you need help? If the person would literally tell me no, then no. Difference is, if you're a manager, then even in your contract is like, and that's also on the trainings, that if you see as a manager any of those mistreatments, you are obliged to report it immediately. And so it depends also on the discussion with the person. I would tell the person that I am obliged to report it to HR, my observings. And then I would just work with the person. Or maybe I would work with HR that these are my observations, but the person doesn't want to help. What else can we do? How we can help, etc. Mm-hmm. But that's the thing, that you as a manager, you are obliged to report it.
I think one more thing I would do is, as you said, Kat, talk to the person. But first I would tell them, like, you're being bullied. Do you know that? Do you realize that? Because I think sometimes, even, for example, in my case that I described about the manager and bullying their own employees, I think they would just think, okay, he's a manager, so he can do that.
Like if we take culture, right? Culture into consideration, and some cultures have strong hierarchy. So yes, they might think he or she is entitled to behave like this because of the culture point of view. But that's really good to know and read your policy and conduct of guidelines of your corporation, to really read what is the corporate culture, what is allowed and what is not allowed. No matter of the country culture, just read your policies. And I would maybe end it with, like, just protect yourself, because work environment should be the safest environment for you to perform and to shine, and not to feel dreaded or I'm going to a prison. That's the last thing the work should be about. And we need to understand that at workplace we are from 8 to 12, if not more, hours, right? And if we can't feel good at work, then there is no point to be in such a work environment. The hours are just too long, and then you calculate the days and the years, and everything reflects on you, on your own behavior, even on your skin. You just don't want that. So maybe that's how I would end this session, that really, guys, protect yourself. Search for an environment and colleagues that you do want to collaborate with, you do want to work at, or if there is any mistreatment, search for all the possibilities how you can report such treatment, because you don't want to be the one exposed to it, as well as you don't want your maybe future colleagues to be exposed to it. So definitely protect yourself. And with that, 수고하셨습니다.
Bye bye.
Bye. Have a nice day.
This podcast represents our own opinions, experience, and our own ideas. We do not represent any official statement from our employers, and this is not their official channel representing the company.